So how much have you splurged on the Black Friday sale?
I haven't. I'm poor.
Uh, I spent $40.
You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Emily Drunk, and tonight on episode number 136, we'll be discussing the latest in Overwatch esports, see what's buzzing in this week's hot community topics, and share our thoughts on the overall state of Overwatch after Seagull released what has been one of the more hotly discussed videos, honestly, since Overwatch came out. But before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-hosts, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and thank all of our repeat listeners. Joining me again, as always, is my co-host Edinar. Edinar, we have Thanksgiving tomorrow. We've had a lot of discussion on the subreddits because of Seagull. We got some interesting tweaks that are going to be on the PTR now, which may or may not have any effect on goats, and I hate to say that, but, with everything going on right now, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing real good. These changes that we'll get into are something that I'm very excited about, and it kind of ties into Seagull's video a little. Certain heroes about Seagull's video, the changes will tie into that. So that's something I'm very excited about. And I've talked about this previously. I was able to switch my Twitch account from an alt account, like my alt, Blizz battle tag, to my main one. So I'm very happy about that.
There you go.
So that's awesome. Thank you, Twitch. I've kind of gotten, as weird as it sounds, I've gotten rejuvenated with Overwatch. Like, I used to come in, play a couple matches, log out, go do something else. Now it's like I log in and I'm like, this is just so much fun. And it's not Ashe. Like, as I thought I previously had stated, it's like Ashe is fun to me, and we'll get into what's wrong with her a little bit when we get into our show notes. But honestly, Roadhog is insanely fun right now and super good. Like, the changes they made to Roadhog make Roadhog fun again. And so I love playing him. I love getting those clutch hooks. So yeah, it's also the Christmas season. It's Thanksgiving now, but it's the Christmas season. Like, I was streaming for an hour, 2 hours before we started the show, just listening to Michael Bublé Christmas. And I couldn't have had more fun. So playing Overwatch, listening to the Bublé, that's a great time of year.
I'm just going to apologize in advance because, we are starting late, and that is because I'm not feeling 100%. So, if I seem a little out of it, you know why. I literally woke up, half an hour ago. That's a thing. But anyways, we have a lot to kind of jump into. We got some pretty deep topics, especially with the state of Overwatch. But let's jump into the news from this week. So with the holidays being here or fast approaching, depending on who you're asking and where they think the start of the holidays are, we have Black Friday deals going on right now on the Blizzard Gear Store and some other marketplaces. But really, this is a Blizzard podcast. We're going to talk about the Blizzard Gear Store. So, merchandise is up to 75% off from November 19th all the way through the end of the month on the 30th. Of course, all of this is while supplies last. So, with that being said, a lot of Overwatch merch is on sale. A lot of the Overwatch League stuff is on sale. You can get those starter jerseys that were $60, now marked down to $15. You can get t-shirts starting at $7. The more upgraded jerseys, like the authentic ones, are $21.25. And then, there's all the hats that are on sale. They're like $8.75, to $10 at the high end. So there's some crazy deals going on right now, and that includes the Nendoroid line as well. And those really nice performance jackets that were $120, now they're down to $30. I am this is the one time I'm almost glad that I've been broke since BlizzCon because I know that if it wasn't because of BlizzCon, it would be because of this. So I'm holding out. Maybe I'll have, my family put in an order for Christmas for me in regards to these sales because these are really hard to pass up. But Ed, I know, just like Spider, you have kind of already fallen victim to the Black Friday sale on the Gear Store. So what have you picked up and how much have you spent so far?
Okay, so I did my initial pass through of all this, and I bought 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just the initial, hey, I wanted these. So I bought 2 T-shirts. I bought an LA Gladiators T-shirt and a San Francisco Shock T-shirt. I also bought a pair of the Overwatch League joggers, so kind of like the sweatpants, essentially, for the New York Excelsior. So I bought that. So that's all I've bought so far. So that's like $30 right there, with shipping for all of that. I'm not done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna wait. I'm almost done Christmas shopping for my entire family because so I'll say this right now. I celebrate Christmas super early. So my Christmas for my family and with everyone like that is December 14th.
Okay.
Because I spend every Christmas down in Florida. So I'm born and raised in Wisconsin. I've never been in Wisconsin for a Christmas since I was born. I spend it in Florida. So we always celebrate Christmas early. So I buy all my Christmas presents super early. So I'm in the process of finishing that up. And I should be done by the end of the weekend. Once I'm done with that, I need to look at what my budget is. And any leftovers is going to the Blizzard Black Friday sale. I don't know if I'm going to get jerseys. I don't know if I'm going to get hoodies, jackets, some more shirts, hats. I mean, part of me wants to save it to buy gear for my new favorite team, which we'll get into in a little bit later. I have a new favorite team. So part of me wants to hold off till they release that merch. But, I mean, T-shirts are $7 right now. It's hard to pass that up. Because I basically wear one every day. I come home, and it's what I wear around the house. So I'm going to have to show some restraint, which I don't like.
I just want to clarify that you said you only wear a T-shirt around the house. So, I mean, see, what you see, right now on his cam is actually all he's wearing.
I make no promises whatsoever.
But anyways, moving on, not only do we have the Black Friday deals going on the Blizzard Gear Store, we also are in the middle of a free trial period for Overwatch. So, in the past, traditionally, this has been something that's only been going on during a weekend period, but that's not the case this time. Now, it is the entire week. This is going on from the 20th all the way through the 26th. And like prior trials for Overwatch, everything is available to play outside of competitive. If you're on a new account, if you are to purchase the game, all of your progress will be carried over. But on top of this, if you have your Blizzard and Twitch accounts linked, you can watch 2 hours of Overwatch streams to earn 3 new Ashe-themed sprays. Now, if you're on, Twitch, most of them will say, they have, drops enabled, so you can kind of get an idea of what streamers you can watch. I know I got mine by watching Emon, because I think he was the top streamer at the time when I was watching him yesterday. But the sprays in question that you get, they got one that has Ashe, one that has Bob, the real superstar out of the release, and then the other one also features 3 members of the Deadlock gang that we also saw in the animated short. So all in all, I'm glad we got a Bob one, but I think out of all of the, unlockables that we've gotten that's kind of, been tied into, this whole Twitch partnership, were the Diva sprays that they did in the last round, but these are pretty good too. So if you haven't yet, you just gotta get those 2 hours in on the streams during this trial period. You can just leave it up on a separate window basically, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, no, these are nice. I actually got mine tonight. These are the hands down the easiest ones to get.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's literally you watch any Overwatch streamer, and you're for 2 hours and you get it. Now, I will say this: I watched for 1 hour, and I got all three sprays. Like, I had the notification popped up. Like, I got mine through Emon as well. Actually, no. Technically, I think I got it through Puckett, because I switched over to Puckett stream. But yeah, no, I was only watching for an hour and it popped up for me. Now, are these sprays I'm gonna use? Maybe the Bob spray, but I mean they're just it's a good collectible type thing. It's nice to see. Sprays are probably the easiest thing they can implement into the game, and especially with this, like sprays are the most meaningless things to implement in. So this is a nice little change. You just got to go out there and watch some people. Like, you could have watched me stream Christmas music for the past 2 hours and play Overwatch. Just gonna throw that out there. I was singing Michael Bublé. No, Michael Bublé.
I mean, like, it's not that, but it's more the fact that, if I wasn't asleep, you would not have been streaming. So, like, it's not like the people would have known, like, oh, hey, Anar's streaming. But wait, HND's supposed to be recorded right now. What is he doing?
What is going on?
But just a quick segue, you know, since you did mention Scenin, I did get into the Twitch Scenes beta. So one of these nights, Ed, you and I, are gonna be streaming that.
I'm okay.
We're doing some karaoke.
I will karaoke the hell out of Christmas music. Like, I will not karaoke anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But you get the Bublé Christmas music on, and I will sing to my heart's end.
But anyways, getting back on track, we gotta talk about Ash and our dev and savior, Papa Jeffy Kep. Praise him. He took to the competitive Overwatch Reddit to talk about Ash and her aim on PC. Now, Kaplan noted that there is, in fact, an issue with her aim down sight animation, and it's not entirely on you, Ed. Okay, like if you're feeling bad about your aim down sight, this is part of the reason. It might not be the full reason, but it's at least part of it. So the animation for her aim down sight can look choppy for players that use 60 FPS or higher. Kaplan noted that the ADS still happens at the correct speed, but the animation looks can feel a bit off. In an upcoming patch, the ADS is smoothed out regardless of how high your FPS is and should feel much better. Now, what's important to note about this particular fix is that this is planned for a patch after the current build that is on the PTR, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. Kaplan noted that this is the kind of fix that can't be rushed due to the fact that there's a lot of code involved and is going to require a lot of testing in order for this to get patched through. So, you know, initially, like, when we've been talking about the ADS, you know, we felt like it was laggy, but it's the actual animation in itself, which, no, it kind of makes me a little bit worried about actually using her as a sniper. Like, I haven't really been scooping in as much ever since I heard about how choppy this particular ability is.
Yeah, I mean, it's she's choppy. And like you aim with her and just something felt off. Like, they put in the article, like, you're shooting with her and you're zooming in and something was wrong. And now we know it's not like, hey, you actually suck at playing Ash. No, the aim is kind of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think she has, as much as I love Ash, I think she has other problems, which I'll get into at a further date. But like, the aiming aspect of Ash is something that needs to be fixed.
Right.
But the thing is it makes sense that it's not going to get just pushed through. Like, I can 100% believe that, you know, there's so much code. Like, I don't know how to code.
Mm-hmm.
And when they tell me, hey, there's a bunch of code that needs to be changed for all this, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, take your time. There's probably a bunch of stuff that has to go into this. And hopefully they get her fixed before she's... I mean, I don't think she'll be fixed before she's in comp, because I think she'll be in comp in probably a week or so. And if she's not part of this, if she's not going to be part of this next patch, then there's no way she's going to get out in time for comp. Like, fixed. So, take that into account. Ashe is not bad right now, but she's going to get better when you play with her on your team once this fix comes through. So just be prepared. Be prepared for that. But yeah, still one of the most fun heroes to play in the game.
Yeah, I just hope that once the choppiness is fixed, that I'll be more consistently able to use the ADS to blow up the dynamite when I actually need it to. But that being said, I agree there are some issues, specifically with her dynamite in regards to how easily dealt with it is, because, with D.Va so prominent still, it's really hard to actually be able to land it.
Yeah, like, if I was to say her one weakness is actually her dynamite. Like, as cool as it is, her dynamite is probably the worst part of her kits. Yeah, you can, like you said, it's easy to deal with. So you can, like, troll lower level people, like where I'm at in the game. Like, you get teams, you can throw it into a hallway, you can throw it at a group coming in, and they won't move for it. But in high level games, her dynamite is almost useless. It really is. The only time it's truly useful in higher end games is when you throw it over a Reinhardt shield, or throw it over an Orisa shield, and you explode it just over them. It's not the explosion that's going to do damage to them, it's the burn that's going to do damage to them. But a Moira healing ball will... Moira healing ball will take care of any of that. So her dynamite is probably the worst part of her whole kit. And if they were to ever change her in the future, because everyone's kind of on the block to get changed, no matter who they are, they'll eventually get changed. If Ashe is to ever be changed, it will be her dynamite. Well, that will probably be the first thing to be altered.
Mm-hmm.
So,
speaking of changes, last week we talked about some of the changes that hit the PTR, and we got some more changes that hit the PTR, which are pretty spicy. So let's talk about what the community has been buzzing about, because the Delete Brig movement, as we have mentioned, is continuing to rally up. And that was a terrible segue. Whatever. Let's talk about Brigitte. So, Brigitte, what are the changes with her further on the PTR? So they're looking at both her Shield Bash and her Inspire passive. So for her Shield Bash, they reduced her damage from 50 to 5. That's pretty drastic. And then with her Inspire, the passive cooldown was reduced from 1.5 seconds to 1 second. The duration was increased from 5 seconds to 6 seconds, and then the total healing was increased from 80 to 100. Okay, so what does this mean for Brigitte? Well, it means that her stun whip shot combo is going to do less damage overall. So, tracers aren't just going to be comboed into oblivion just based off of one CC ability in the game. It also means that she's going to be more of an active healer. That being said, though, Ed, when we look at the current landscape of the meta, without question, there is still a lot of triple tank, a lot of triple support. How do you think these changes that are on the PTR, specifically for Brigitte, is going to change the current meta, if at all?
So I think, there's a combination of changes. So you have the changes to Doomfist, you have the changes to Baguette, you have the changes, you have Ashe coming in and stuff like that. I think these are enough to change the worst thing that's ever happened to the game in Goats Comp. Like, Goats is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to the game because people playing it hate playing it. People playing against it hate playing against it. Like, no one enjoys playing or dealing with Goats comp.
Except Brigitte players.
And Jane. Because Jane, I'm sorry, Jane, you are the most anti-Goats person of all time. And then what does your Team Canada do in the World Cup? You play Goats. You're a hypocrite. So I'll just say that now. But like, all right, so the changes when you look at Bigette, you have to look at these changes. They change her from like a dive killer to more of a healer just with these changes. Like, she can no longer one-shot tracers. So like, to one-shot a tracer, I don't even know if she can shield bash, whiplash, and swing and kill a tracer. No. I think that's only 140 damage. So technically, Bigette cannot kill a tracer one-shot style, which is awesome. And now she also cannot stun through shields. I think all that stuff combined, you're going to start seeing her fall out of the meta. And you might start seeing, I don't think you're going to see a dive come in, because they've done enough with Bigette and Ashe to counter the dive comp. Like Winston is not a good place right now, in my mind. Just with the heroes that can counter him. And Tracer, you're going to see an uptick in Tracer without this Bigette like one-shot capabilities. So, but you're not going to see a full-on, Tracer, Genji, Winston, Diva, like that whole dive movement going on. So, with these changes, you're going to see a shift in the meta, hopefully, away from Goats, because a big thing with Goats is Bigette trying to stun Reinhardt through the shield, being able to just destroy people. Like, Bigette made Goats possible. Like, really, she did. Like, Goats was not a thing until... So, when you nerf her and you make her more of a healer, you lose that Goats capability. So, I'm really hoping... I'm really, truly hoping that these changes to Bigette will make Goats go away. At least in comp mode. Like, you're still going to always see it in like, when you're trying to climb the ladder, stuff like that. In OWL, I really hope you don't see the Goats. Because the World Cup, the worst thing about the World Cup was every team, offense, defense, was running Goats. Like, that's just, it's boring to watch. Like, nobody wants to watch Goats. And if you can try and get rid of that, you need to. And I think these changes to her will do that. And I truly hope she falls to what Mercy was a little while ago and just complete trash tier. Like, I want Bigette trash tier. Plain and simple.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but honestly, I think this only strengthens Goats, regardless of the shield bash changes, and that is primarily because the fact that that composition primarily revolves around the extra armor. There's really no changes to the armor part of her toolkit at all with all of these changes, but, like, since you are losing... the stun capabilities on that Reinhardt, that's just going to mean that Reinhardt is going to play a more vital role in that composition. But in regards to the tankiness of triple tank, triple support, this only strengthens that much further. So I don't think this is going to have any sort of impact on the meta. Why
won't you give me this win? I want Goats gone, and you are trying to crush my dreams.
That's just what I do here on the show. But who knows? Maybe this won't be the end of the road for the Brigitte changes. Maybe they'll go beyond this. But, like, I'm not going to hold my breath in this situation when it comes to the landscape kind of shifted a little bit. But, you mentioned Doomfist. Let's talk about what they're changing with him. So, we talked about, some of his other abilities last week that were already in the PTR. And they made some more changes to him. So, victims no longer lose air control while being pulled in from Seismic Slam. And then they took a look at his ultimate. So his Sky Drop, the inner ring damage radius was increased from 1.5 meters to 2 meters. So this is the ring where it deals full damage. And then the max damage outside of the inner ring was decreased from 300 to 200. That would be the ring where the damage fall off tends to happen. So in these PTR patch notes, there was one particular thing that I definitely wanted to note, and it was in regards to balance philosophy with certain abilities, which definitely ties into the Seagull video with his state of Overwatch. So I'm gonna read the quote, and then I want to get your thoughts on how you think this is going to change the way that they're going to be tweaking the game moving forward. So they say that overall, we're looking carefully at the amount of crowd control abilities, such as stuns and knockbacks that remove air control, and seeing if we can remove or reduce some of the effectiveness of some of these. So, we talked about the amount of CC in the game. There's also a discussion to be made, which, we'll bring up later in regards to the overall time to kill. But how are you feeling about the level of crowd control abilities, and do you feel like this is going to be the first steps of them starting to scale them back a bit?
They need to. They straight up need to tone down the crowd control abilities. McCree, all right. If you go back to essentially pre-new character releases, so like in Seagull's video, which we'll talk about, almost every character that's come out has a CC ability, or something that can alter the play of the game. And this is something that is just building and building over time, and I don't think they could, and most people probably wouldn't realize it, like thinking, hey, this is kind of snowballing into a CC effort by all our characters. But they got to the point where everything's a CC like a game. It's you have the Doomfist Sombra, you have Begat, you have McCree, you have Orisa even, who can do her Holt or anything like that. Like, you have all these characters that make the game not fun. I think we're going to start seeing a massive change to... I don't think Baguette's or McCree's stuns are going to be in line. But I could see more Sombra, Doomfist, Orisa, people like that who can, like, in an instant just stop an ability altogether. Maybe Baguette's stun or McCree's stun, but those are niche abilities, and that requires pretty quick, like, timing to get that out. Like, the stun from McCree and the shield bash from Baguette are something that you have to do instantaneously, whereas Orisa's Halt or Sombra's hack or something like that. I mean, even Doomfist knocking up into the air, or the his right click to hit somebody, like, this is all something that ties into the we need to make the game, like, those are all abilities that make the game not fun for people to play. And the Seagull video kind of highlighted it. Like, everyone had been talking about it prior to Seagull's video, but then it took someone as prominent as Seagull to release a video to be like, this is a problem. And it's not, odd enough that shortly after Sequel released this video, they released something saying that they're looking at crowd control abilities because it's making the game not fun. It really is. Like, it had the old school crowd control abilities, but then the new crowd control abilities are just unbearable at times.
So, not only do we have, a lot of changes in the PTR, but, there's also a lot of esports going on right now with contenders kicking off. And, I was browsing the competitive Overwatch Reddit, as I normally do pretty much every day, and I noticed that there was a new community-managed Twitter account that was opened in regards to helping promote the Tier 2 and Tier 3 competitive scene. Now, this account in question was owned and being managed by Brandon Padilla. He's currently on the Game House, which is another the Game House is like an esports website. They also have the Watch House, which is their Overwatch podcast. Others will probably know him as Seagullman. He's the one that was wearing the eagle mask at the Overwatch League games. And, there's been a lot of talk about this account because, they've quickly tallied up, 4,000 followers. And I think, like, the main Path to Pro one right now is, like, 30K. But at the end of the day, like, I still can't help but feel as, regardless of what the community is doing to promote this stuff, it does kind of still feel like a fruitless venture, because a lot of the people that would be going out of their way to find this stuff would already be following the main account. But there's definitely a lot to be... like, a lot of stuff missing in regards to the actual Path to Pro account, because, ever since these contender seasons started for Season 3, it's been awfully quiet. Yes, they are auto-hosting the Overwatch Contenders Twitch channel on the Overwatch League website. Or, not on the website, but their Twitch channel. But... when you go on the browser, like, they're not having it there. They're still focusing on a lot of, like, the community spotlight in regards to, like, the free trial, watching Fran, who's tied with, the Atlanta Reign. Sometimes they're spotlighting some of the other streamers out there. But there's still a severe lack of promotion in regards to competitive Overwatch, more so with the Tier 2 and Tier 3 scene. And that's why, for the majority of the situations, like, it's up to the community to go out of their way. But that being said, Ed, like, there's always, like, this lingering feeling for me that Blizzard is just going to shut this account down. Like, I'm fearful that that's going to happen, and then, like, it's not like people are going to... like, just say F it and then just stop tuning in altogether, because, there still is viewership for the Tier 2 scene, but it's just, I don't know what the answer is to help increase the viewership other than Blizzard needing to have someone better manage, their social media presence, because in regards to contenders, like, it's just very few and far between, and it's a shame, because, like, for the most part, like, maybe Contenders is only pulling in, like, 1 to, like, 5,000 viewers, as opposed to, the giant slice of the pie that the Overwatch League gets, or World Cup, or some of these other monthly tournaments, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the number one thing Blizzard could do for the Tier 2 scene, and we've talked about this, they need to feature them on BNet. So get Fran off there, as much as you want to promote the community, promote Tier 2. So they need to go out there and do that. Their social media is trashed here for Tier 2. Everything else Blizzard does for social media is actually pretty awesome. It's, when it comes to the, contenders, it's just like, it's non-existent to them. Like, they'll say something every once in a while, but they won't promote it. I think the big thing was and correct me if I'm wrong, but last season, Australia, they promoted Australia Contenders.
Yeah.
And Australia Contenders had an insane amount of viewers over what they previously had.
Yeah, it was like 30,000, I believe.
Yeah, which they had never even come close to getting. But it's because they put Australia Contenders on the browser. And that gets viewers. All they need to do is advertise NA, EU, Korea Contenders on the browser, on the BNet browser, and it will get massive amount of views over what they had. Like, I was watching some of the Contenders over the past few days, and like it maxed out at like 5,000 viewers. And if it was on the browser, it'd get 50,000, 20,000. It's just the nature of the game. And you're right. Like this new Twitter handle, it may get shut down or may get told to change their name, but everyone who's related to the Overwatch community and content creators is following this Twitter handle because they want to know about the tier 2 scene. Like, I didn't know about it, and then all of a sudden I got notifications that like, hey, 20 of the people you follow just Twitter account. Like, all right. And I can only imagine how many people have followed it since then. It's just, it's insane. Like, Overwatch League fans, they love the Overwatch League, but they love Contenders just as much because they know it's growing, and they know next year half the players in Contenders are going to be in the Overwatch League.
Contenders Korea.
All right, so let's bump that up. 90% of Korea Contenders will be in the Overwatch League next year. Half of EU and NA will be in. And then who knows what Chicago is going to bring for their Overwatch League team to be the best team of all time. Better than New York, Excelsior, Philadelphia Fusion combined. Like, that's the only way they're going to go. But like the tier 2 scene is just kind of, Blizzard just kind of shits on them. They really do. Like, all right, we talked about this and we joked about this beforehand, but someone from the Korea Contender scene was like, oh, what's your payout this year? Oh, we're getting paid in Blizzard bucks. You're getting paid in Blizzard currency to buy more, and the only way you can use it is buy more Blizzard stuff. Like, you're not actually getting paid cash. That's like if you went to your job and they're like, okay, like if you worked for Amazon and your salary was Amazon gift cards. Like, that is essentially what they're paying Korean Contenders right now. It's like they're paying them with Blizzard gift cards. And that's not motivation to play for them. Like, right. The way they treat the tier 2 scene is horrendous. Knowing that the tier 2 scene is what's going to build the actual Overwatch League scene. So, yeah, it bothers me. Because I love watching Contenders. I watched Contenders a decent amount this past week, but it's just, I know how much they get shat on for being Contenders teams.
Yeah, and it's the only competitive Overwatch that's going on right now too. There's nothing else going on. But at the end of the day, like there's one very simple thing that Blizzard can do, outside of what we've already mentioned, in order to bring more viewership into the Path to Pro scene. And it's as easy as this. All you have to do is add more skins for the Contenders teams.
Oh, 100%.
Like, you need some incentive for people to tune in. So there needs to be some sort of Twitch drop or loot drop, however you want to say it, whether it is sprays, unlocking team color skins, and that'll bring the people in. And, in the time that it takes them to unlock said skins, I have a fair amount of confidence that, depending on, what region they're watching, that they might just be a fan for life at that point. Because, like, there is a direct connection with contenders and the Overwatch League, because, with the mid-season sign-ins, like, a lot of those players, a vast majority of them would be coming out of contenders anyway. Sure, you might have, like, a ladder player here and there, which does tend to happen, and, we've seen it a little bit more during this off-season free agency window. But, like, this is where all of these sign-ins are going to be coming from, and, for some people, that's not going to be enough in order to pique their interest. So giving them, skins in the game for tuning into, like, their favorite team, whether it's an affiliate team or not, which would be another discussion. Like, would they only do academy teams if they were to do this? I don't know. But you need to give viewers, or just the general competitive Overwatch community, a reason to care about the tier 2 scene, because right now, like, everyone always hears, like, the horror stories, essentially, of some of these organizations, like Toronto Esports, like, GG Esports Academy, and then that's just, like, a black mark. Like, we need to have something that can just polish the scene, and make it look better than what it might actually be. But, like, there's still so much that Blizzard can do, and it just seems like they just haven't put forth the effort in order to bridge the gap between turning an Overwatch League fan, or just a general Overwatch fan, into a fan of the tier 2 scene of Overwatch.
Yeah, they treat tier 2 as a second-class citizen, and it's sad to me. And they need to embrace the odd crazy tier 2 skins in the game. I don't think they could ever do skins in the game for non-affiliate teams, because the non-affiliate teams are essentially almost always interchanging. So, right. Like,
it's a revolving door.
Yeah, it's a revolving door. But the contenders, the affiliate teams are constant. So those are, tier 2 skins that you could easily put into the game. Now, the thing is most of the contenders teams that are affiliates use the same skin colors as their pro teams.
You could always reverse them.
You can. Like, you could have some changes, or the tier 2 teams could, get different skin color combinations. Like, it's not that hard. It's not like there's a crazy amount of teams can't have, color combinations. So that would be a great thing to kind of build up the tier 2 scene. I mean, we have, the finger bangs, blue and pink, but if I'm not mistaken, Mayhem Academy, blue and pink last year as their colors, but they had to use the super crappy green-white Overwatch contenders home and away skins that everyone else had to. The worst thing they did was they made contenders use the same away and home skin colors. Like, you can't tell the difference between teams if every team's using the same skin. Like, that's just stupid. That's one of the first things that has to go. So yeah, they need to do a lot of work, but I think they're more concerned on getting the Overwatch League network, or sorry, every time they need to, their Overwatch League, like, on solid footing and up and running, and getting all these new expansion teams up and running and running smoothly, and then getting Chicago next year.
Top priority.
And then we will become a based podcast. But yeah, I think they need to work on that and work on tier 2. I think, sadly enough, tier 2 is probably a few years away from getting some real love.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about some of the drastic changes that are going to happen in the first season of 2019 for the Path to Pro. But, as we mentioned last week, you can expect us to extend our coverage on Tier 2, specifically with Contenders Europe and North America. So when we're talking about, our Inside the League segment, that's also going to include, Inside Path to Pro. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about Contenders, because Season 3 has kicked off across multiple regions out there. So as of right now, this past weekend, we had the start of Contenders China, Contenders Europe, and Contenders Australia. So this weekend, we have the start of Contenders Pacific, Korea, and South America. And then North America is going to begin after Thanksgiving. This will be next Tuesday and Wednesday. So I know you and I are really excited about that, because, well, for one, a lot of the Academy teams are in North America. I mean, let's be real here. So in regards to coverage on our network, here's Never Die, the podcast you're currently listening to. We got Europe, we got North America, Overwatch League Network, which we record on Mondays. That podcast will specifically be covering the Korean scene, and, a lot of that just has to do with the fact that, if you kind of look at the landscape of free agency, a lot of the sign-ins were out of Contenders Korea. So it makes more sense to pair it that way. But that being said, Ed, we've had some issues with the Overwatch Contenders website quite often in regards to being able to look at the rosters. It's been kind of like hit or miss. Sometimes you go on there, it works fine. Other times you go on and it's grayed out and then you can't click on anything. But I want to talk about the NA scene here really quick, and then we'll go over the results from Europe Week 1. So there's a couple of things to note here. 1, Atlanta has an Academy team.
The best Academy
which
team.
is just named so far because there's no actual Brandon, unless this actually is it. I don't know. ATL Academy. And 2, who is that roster consisted of?
It's kind of consisting of the best player in Overwatch and his associates. So it's Last Night Leftovers. LNL is the Atlanta Academy team. And when we talk about the best player in Overwatch, it's Sugar Free. So you have Sugar Free, you have Gator, Dogman, Ajax, Hawk, Saucy. You have the whole, LNL team. Well, not the whole, but the majority of the LNL team is part of the ATL Academy team. And their Contenders team is probably the only reason you should cheer for the Overwatch League team. They have Defran, who may or may not play. We don't know.
They still have Airster, which I'm excited about.
Yeah.
That's going to be the player that I'm going to follow, at least on their main team.
The Atlanta team is crap. It's just a crap team. But their Contenders team is awesome because they have Sugar Free. They're more interesting to me because they have Sugar Free than the main roster having Defran.
Mm-hmm.
So, super excited for that.
Yeah, and, I want to note something here. LNL, this is the team that demoted GGEA, right? Which, of course there was, blemishes on them and that organization. Whatever, they're gone. But this was the team that demoted an Academy team. This was the first team to do so. And then, all of a sudden, hey, we're now an Academy team. So if you're looking at getting picked up and signed as an affiliate team, that's what you need to do. Go out of your way and demote British Hurricane. Maybe not knock out Gen G in their first seasonal contenders in Korea, but, knock out Team CC over in China. And then, one of these other Chinese expansion teams is going to pick you up as their affiliate team in Season 1 of 2019. It's foolproof because it worked for LNL. But I also want to talk about Fusion University. This is a team that handedly just completely smoked XL2 Academy in the grand finals of last season. And there's a couple things to note here. 1, Snillo is with the Fusion, but on their Academy team. So this is the second instance for this current season where there's what you might consider a demotion. So also, Who Are You is not listed on this roster on the Overwatch Contenders site at all, which is a big. It's not Who Are You, it's Where Are You? And on top of that, Elk, he is signed as a two-way player, but when he was announced for Fusion, he basically said, hey, I have no intention of playing in Contenders for this upcoming season. He is listed on the active roster for Fusion University. So I'm feeling a little bit conflicted here. Like, I want to see Elk, get his fair amount of play in the Overwatch League. I don't know if it's just a case of maybe they want to keep him fresh, and maybe they feel like he was a good catalyst for this team in particular, and with Who Are You not there with the team, maybe they're just looking to keep more of that core roster around just a little bit longer, while Elk is still practicing in the team house, things like that. But with this current roster, like, what are you expecting from Fusion Uni, knowing that this is going to be a different look offense for them?
I mean, I still expect Fusion Uni to be the leader of the pack in NA, but they have some competition. Like, obviously, they have Elk, they have Snillo, they still have Zachary. I'm not going to go down that road. Yes, Zachary had some issues in the Cup, but he still was one of the best players in Contenders, period. They still have Alarm. It's not like they lost Who Are You, or they may have lost Who Are You. We don't know. But this team is still not unchanged from last year, but like they kept a lot of the similar players. Now, you have people like Gladiators Legion, Team Envy, XL2 Academy, who can go out there and compete with them, but with Elk, Zachary, Snillo, Alarm, you have one hell of a core base in the Tier 2 scene for Fusion University. So I don't really slipping at all. Like, Fusion University is still my pick to win this season of Contenders for NA. Like, they're just that good.
Right.
So they're still my top pick. The one team that could compete against them is probably Gladiators Legion. And that's because people were stupid enough to not pick up their tank line. Like, I'm not even going to go down that road. Like, if we talk about... No. It's...
All right. Well, there's...
Just no.
There's some other things that I want to note. When we look at Mayhem Academy, like, I'm really intrigued by this roster. They picked up Fact Fiction from the Houston Outlaws. And we also have Manitin back with the Mayhem team. Just, they're Overwatch Contenders team. So, that's a former duo from the Overwatch League on that tank line, which I'm really intrigued by. I'm just glad that Manitin is getting an opportunity to play somewhere else, even if it is still with that same organization. So, that's a second Overwatch League player to basically get a demotion. Granted, he was released and then picked up. We also have Energy Esports, the academy team for the Shock, who basically, they saw the landscape of some of the Overwatch League players that were dropped, and then they're like, okay, let's bring them into our organization. So they picked up Kalios, they picked up Verbo, they picked up Snow, which I don't know if I'd necessarily put him in the same category, but he was an Overwatch League player despite him, not seeing him play. And they also signed iRemix, so, you got 4 former Overwatch League players, all with the Shock organization on Energy Esports, and I'm really curious to see how that's going to work, so that could be something to keep an eye on. And then with XL2 Academy, I know they just announced their roster, and they picked up former Overwatch League player Logix. So Logix has a new home. He's going to be one of the main DPS on this team. So XL2 Academy, yes, they kind of pulled in NYXL and kind of shit the bed later on in the playoffs, and kind of got their asses handed to them by Fusion Uni. But I'm excited that he's seeing play. So all in all, like, we see a lot of Overwatch League talent trickling down back into contenders teams, whether it was with, the team's affiliate team or not. So it just comes to show, like, even if you don't see play in the Overwatch League, people still value that experience of just being in that sort of team environment. So, there's still a very good chance that, regardless of the playtime, you're still going to get picked up for contenders.
Mm-hmm. No, it 100% is like, you started off with Mayhem Academy, with Fact Fiction, Manatee. I call him Manatee all the time, but it's Manatin. But he's Manatee. And then the two-way player with Apply and stuff like that. Like, they're going to be so much better. But, like, you talk about these two-way players, like Skyfox is taking iRemix and stuff like that. I assume... Now, Skyfox they're not an affiliate yet, are they?
No, but they have like 8,000 people listed in their staff and roster.
Yeah. But like, God, there's a couple players on every contenders team in NA that you're just like, wait, they're not in the Overwatch League? Like, it's insane. Like, NRG, you have Smex. Smex is someone who could be in. Second Wind, you have someone like, Car is the first one that comes to mind with that. Skyfox is with iRemix. X, you have Crimzo in McGravy with Envious. Like, it's... The Tier 2 scene is riddled with talent that either can be two-way players or should be called up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised there's not more two-way players. Because they don't really they don't cross over that much. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited for this.
Absolutely. So, as we mentioned, Contenders Europe did start. So, week 1 is already out the door, so we had action on November 18th and 19th. So, Ed, what went down on those days in regards to the results?
Okay, so it was kind of a one-sided affair, except for one match.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the 18th, you had Windstrike Team defeated Young and the Beautiful 4-0. And then HSL Esports defeated Bazooka Puppies 4-0. And then the most interesting game was Samsung Morning Stars defeated Team Giganti 3-2. And then the next day you had British Hurricane defeating We Have Org 3-1. So British Hurricane actually get a win. They got to build their way up from...
It's after their streak in trials, they got a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, being a crap team. And then you had Angry Titan, Orgless, and Hungry 3-0. And then the last match, you had 1 point defeated Shoe Money Crew 4-0. So basically, it all kind of came down to one match that was interesting, and that was kind of an upset in Samsung Morning Stars defeated Team Giganti. I know last week we talked about how Team Giganti is kind of to us, a pretty good team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was watching this match, they talked a lot about how Team Giganti has only practiced together for 2 weeks.
Okay.
As a team. And so they're like, they're going to get better. They just have not practiced together. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Because when you look at Team Giganti, Florida Mayhem Season 1 Light, when you have Zupe, Zappos, Dobbin, Milky Man, Lobo, Visility, and Ripa, that's a good team. That is a good contenders team. And to know that they've only practiced together 2 weeks, it makes sense that they lost that close. I expect Team Giganti to kind of put their pedal to the metal after this match and really kind of just dominate people, except when they play the British Hurricane.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Samsung, primarily because, this is a team that just had won the Angry Titans Cup against said team, Angry Titans, who are another one of the top teams out of Europe. So, for me, as someone that has followed Giganti for quite some time, I'm glad that, even against, a team that has been picking up a lot of momentum here as of late, that have really started to establish themselves, that they're still able to take this to a map 5 overall. So, it might be a little bit slow out of the gate for Team Giganti, but this is a team that I fully expect to rebound. Maybe it's going to take a couple of games, maybe they need a couple of true tests, and then they'll kind of be back to their old ways, but, one match in particular isn't going to make or break this team, especially this early on, since, there's still 4 weeks left to play. But that being said, we've had a number of announcements out of the Hangzhou Spark camp.
Yes.
We talked about the Brandon last week when we were talking about not safe for work memes, which was an awesome discussion. But what we didn't talk about is all the announcements that have happened since then, which includes their coaching staff as well as their entire roster. So I'm going to be a little bit long-winded here because, as I said, they've announced literally everyone. So, let's start with the coaching staff. They picked up Mask, who was the head coach of X6 Gaming, and I'll just start by saying, for the most part, this is a merger of X6 Gaming and Seven, both out of Contenders Korea. So moving back, we have Supreme on the coaching staff. He was the head coach of Seven. They also picked up Yin Don, who served as the head coach of LGD Gaming. So that right there tells you, okay, we got 2 Korean coaches, 1 Chinese coach. So this is going to have a mixed roster, which is important to note because the first announcement in regards to sign-ins was my boy Guxue. I was hyping him up on the Calm Before the Storm panel as someone that needs to be under the spotlight when everyone was just hyping up America, and then they shit the bed. That's besides the point, but Guxue was the main tank for LGD Gaming. And also on that main tank line, you have No Smite from X6 Gaming as the first players to join the Spark. Now, Guxue, yes, he had a great performance in the World Cup. We saw China make it all the way to the Grand Finals, which you were one of the few people to actually get that part right. But, I love watching Guxue because he just brings this aggression on the front line that just rewards with very high-end eliminations as a tank player. And we really saw him getting the better in regards to kills compared to some of the top DPS in the World Cup. I know No Smite has played a lot more Reinhardt. So, depending on what sort of meta we're looking for, he might see the nod in regards to that. But No Smite is a player that has been known to also flex the DPS, kind of like Hotba. Hotba for formerly the Fusion was primarily a D.Va player, but he could play a top-end Tracer. No Smite brings in Doomfist, Hanzo, but I think his bread and butter was really Junkrat in regards to that. So for the most part, this is going to be a Korean roster. Guxue was the first Chinese player signed initially, and then since then, we have also seen a sign-in of Rhea out of X6 Gaming and Adora from Seven. So Adora is going to be their Tracer specialist. I know he's played Hanzo, Doomfist, Sombra. And Rhea is the flex tank. He'll be the off tank. I know he 100% plays D.Va. He's really good at his peeling ability in the game. I'm not sure about his other off tanks. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on for this team. We also have Godsby from X6 Gaming and Bazzi from Seven signed with the team. And Godsby, this is going to be their flex player. This is their jack of all trades. So, he's more prominent on hitscan, but he plays a lot of projectile as well. He brings Genji, Pharah, Soldier, Doomfist, Tracer. But when he first came onto the scene, he was one of the elite McCree players in Apex, which, nowadays is basically Contenders Korea. We have Bazzi, who is, a top-tier Widowmaker player. So he's probably going to be maybe more of a specialist role in regards to that. We have their support line of IDK from Lucky Future Zenith and Revenge, who comes from 7. And when I saw IDK's name, I knew in that moment. I mean, I was already a fan of the people that they picked up, but IDK was really the thing that brought them to the forefront for me in regards to the expansion teams. This was one of the more hotly contested off-season sign-ins as a main support. And, LFC, yes, they're in Contenders China. Yes, they are a Korean team. But that team absolutely dismantled that region in Season 1 and Season 2. And he's not the only LFC player to get signed. So, rounding out this roster, you have Crystal, also from Lucky Future Zenith. That was their hard carry on the DPS line. Another very flexible DPS player. And then they also finalized the roster by signing Bebe from X6 Gaming. So when you look at Contenders China, when you look at Lucky Future Zenith, for me, Crystal was 100% the most impressive player out of that region. And, there are definite parallels that you can make to the players that they have signed on this roster and their hero pools to what we see out of Contenders China and, the Chinese World Cup team. They can play a high volume amount of characters at a high level, and that makes them very hard to prepare for. So, I'm really anxious to see this team in action. They got a lot of big names, a lot of great flex options, and, I'm not going to say 100% they're going to be a, meta-proof team, but it definitely opens up a lot of possibilities to, maybe see in some of these off-kilter strategies like we've seen in Contenders China, where we might see a solo tank, solo support 4 DPS lineup. It could happen, specifically with this team.
Yeah. No, this team is, all right. The Spark are my favorite team going into next season. I didn't expect this, but the people they signed forced my hand. So you had the Gushue, who is just insane, just overall insane. And then I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, cool. They signed Gushue. Good for them. And then you find out they're like, oh, you signed Godspeed. Oh, IDK. Oh, Bebe. Bebe, and that's how I'm going to say it. I don't know if that's how he pronounces Bebe, but it's Bebe. It's Bebe. Is an insane Zenyatta player. How do I put this best? So Jonak is known for damage outputting Zenyatta.
Mm-hmm.
Bebe is known for his healing output Zenyatta. He has this knack to kind of pump out and hit his ultimate just before a Sombra EMP. He knows when it's coming. And he can do whatever he can to do that. His Zenyatta play is different than what you're used to seeing.
Would you say that he transcends to another plane of existence where he just premeditates and then he pops it at the exact moment that it needs to go out?
I would say that. So you have the IDK and support and Bebe support. That's a good support line. And then you have Crystal, who's probably one of the most impressive people that we've seen lately. And then you throw him in with Godspeed on the DPS line, and that's just insane. And then you have Gushue or No Smite, depending on what main tank you want and what it calls for. Because like you said, No Smite is more of a Reinhardt player. Gushue, obviously one of the best Winston players in the game right now. And then you have Rhea, who is, D.Va's not going anywhere anytime soon. And that's what Rhea plays. But Rhea can also play Zarya or Roadhog or something like that. Can play the off tank. You have a team built right now with these players that is Overwatch League playoff contenders. I know Vancouver's supposed to have runaways. I would put this team ahead of the Runaways team with Vancouver. Like they would like these are the like ways this team are 1 and 2. Now you could make cases to flip them as the top 2 expansion teams, but no other teams come close to the rosters these teams have put together. Now I will say this one thing that did make me laugh. They have 3 people on their team named Park. Like Rhea, Bazzi, and IDK are all named Park. So I'm like, well, they can't scream that into voice comms. So, but this is my team going into next season. The Spark or the Finger Bangs are 100% my team. This is a team that I'm gonna buy shirts for, jerseys for. I'm gonna buy their, their cocktail glasses so I can have their cocktail glasses while we do our show. Like, this is my team. Like, it's got probably the coolest color scheme because they stole it from the Runaways. But like, you take that into account with the team they put together, and Goose Shui. Oh, he's gonna be so deadly. So I am insanely excited for this team.
So, 2 things. One, we kind of already got a sneak peek at the jerseys because Zoe actually tweeted a picture of her in one. And 2, I love the fact that every time you bring up Runaway, you call them Runaways. Every time, 100%, it's foolproof. But anyways, getting back to Overwatch League, we do have an update on the Philadelphia Fusion Homecoming show match that, we kind of talked about last week, and we do know who they are going to be facing. It is, in fact, New York Excelsior. So, this Homecoming show match is taking place on December 1st, and the last time these 2 teams met was in the season's semifinals, in the inaugural season, where the Fusion would eliminate the New York Excelsior, picking up a 2-0 win. So, obviously, a lot of things have happened since then. We've had New York Excelsior call up Flower and Nene from Excel 2 Academy. We've seen Fusion part ways with Hotba, as well as Shadowburn, who's now with the Paris Baguettes, or the Berets. However,
I think it's the Paris Berets, cigarettes. God, White Flag. I can't remember. We had a name.
It's the Paris Baguette. No, I'm trying to think how we should describe them. It's the Paris beret wearing baguette wielding cocks. what we're getting? It's a mouthful.
Paris baguette beret smoking wielding cocks. All right, there we go.
So
we got it.
So this match will be streamed live on Twitch. So we didn't get the show match that we wanted with like maybe one of the new expansion teams, and you and I both felt like that would have been a bit of a stretch. But we do get the one that made the most sense. We get the rematch between Fusion and New York, and just like the distance between the two, that just makes sense too. I mean, logistically speaking, like they're not that far. So that being said, Ed, who are you going to be favoring in this show match? And yes, I know it's a show match, so you can't really read too much into this, but with the current landscape, who do you favor here?
I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, in this show match, you have Philadelphia. Man, New York's good. Like, hey, we're going to pump out this DPS group. Okay, the next match, we're going to bring in 2 new DPS. Oh, and then the match after that, we're going to bring in 2 new DPS. Oh, and then the match after that, if we haven't destroyed you, we're bringing 2 new DPS. Like, this is one of... Yeah. It's... I hate New York. I hate New York because like whenever you think of a team, it's like, oh, they're good, and then you're like, how would they do against the Excelsior? And you're like, shit, not good. So yeah, I'm not picking Fusion in this at all. What about you? Who would you pick?
See, like, here's the thing. So far, when it comes to these show matches, we've seen the home team basically take everything. I feel like this is going to be a different tale. Like, I will pick New York, and like, I feel that even with the additions, even if they haven't had the most time to get, brought into, you know, scrims or whatever, regardless of how much practice time they have, like, I feel like with the pieces, they are going to be a more meta-proof team compared to the Fusion. But then again, you know, this is a show match. You can't read too much into it. It's not going to be the best look on either side. But, you know, I am curious to see if, like, maybe Elk will play for Fusion here. I am curious to see if we will see Flower or Nene from New York Excelsior. And, you know, just see how their tank line does, since they can't, like, bring in Janice in between maps. So I want to see if we can get a consistent level of play in a potentially longer series from Mono and Meko, for the Excelsior. But I'm definitely going to give NYXL the nod, but who knows, maybe Fusion will surprise us again, and kind of, hand New York their asses. You never know. But anyways, you know, that is all fun and games, but, like, we're here to talk about the state of Overwatch. So this is going to be our main discussion for tonight, and I honestly, like, I just wrote down bullet points in terms of discussion points, and this is going to be more of a free-flow type conversation compared to some of our other ones. So Seagull released this video on YouTube, which, let me pull it up right now. I want to see what the updated views is. It's at
1.3 or something like that.
Yeah, it's got 1,257,799 views, 84k thumbs up, 2.8k thumbs down. So Seagull basically just went on YouTube. You know, he's talking about the overall state of the game. He touched on a number of topics like hard counters, crowd control abilities, the impact of ultimates and how those are used, like solo queue, and just like overall like balance decisions, you know, things like that. Now since then, you know, I know he was on stream with Surefour and Jane. This was like right after this was posted, and they were talking about it on their respective streams. So there is a follow-up discussion in regards to this particular video, which if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. I'll link it in the Twitch chat real quick. But I'm sure a lot of people have watched this by now.
I mean, 1.2 some odd million people.
That's a small amount. So there is no question, since this video has come out, there has been a lot of discussion with the community. You could definitely argue that this has been the most discussion that Overwatch has seen since the game came out. Like, there's a lot of people talking about, you know, their feelings on the game and its current state right now. And I feel like when you look at this video, you have to take some of it with a grain of salt, primarily because a lot of this is focusing on the solo queue experience of the game.
Yep.
And, you know, we talk time and time again, like, Overwatch is a team-based game. And there are definitely times, more times than you'd like to count, where it kind of feels like a flip of the coin. Like, you're only one player in what is essentially a 12-man lobby. So the chances of you running into someone that, you know, might be toxic or might throw or soft throw, you know, things like that, you know, there's a good chance that things like that can't happen. But for the most part, like with some of these bullet points that Siegel brought up, these issues, or at least most of them that he did bring up, are magnified tenfold as a solo queue player. So that being said, let's talk about the game in regards to counters. So one of the major points that, has been brought up is that as of right now, Overwatch is essentially a game of rock, paper, scissors. You're basically reacting based on what your opposition is. So let's say, for example, like look at the current meta. Triple tank, triple support is the perceived meta in a lot of situations. Maybe more so on like control. But for the most part, a lot of people, when in doubt, goats it out. So let's say you come out and you're running a traditional comp. We'll just say, let's say you're running dive, and you're going up against goats, and you're just thinking like, well, as a Genji player, like, I'm gonna have a hard time cutting through this.
Yep.
So you go out of spawn, you see that you're going up against goats, and you're like, well, shit, this just isn't going to work, and then you immediately go back to spawn. What do you react to goats as a person going up against it? What's your go-to counter to go up against triple tank, triple support?
For me personally, because like I'm a shit Doomfist, and I'm a shit Sombra. The only thing I can do to counter tank, which normally I am because I'm backfiller when I play, is I go Pharah. Like, I go Pharah because they can't... The only thing they can do to get you out of the sky is or a Roadhog or a D.Va. Like, and even that's not that reliable to get you out of the sky. So, like, I go Pharah if I'm not already tank or healer. But 90% of the time, I'm a tanker healer. Because I do not excel at the, aiming aspect of things in the game. So, like, I go Pharah. Like, what do you do to counter goats?
Well, here's the thing. The best answer to goats
is
to also run goats. Like, and this is something that drives me nuts because, yes, like, there are other options out there. You bring up Pharah. Pharah can work against this composition. Some people go the Sombra Doomfist route, which also can work. But when you're talking about execution and the overall skill required to counter said composition, running those variants for anti-goats is a lot harder than actually running triple tank and triple support. So basically, it's goats v goats, and that's why we see a lot of these mirror matches. It's pretty much the same case when we were in the dive meta. You would also run straight dive. And it seems like whatever the go-to or the most ideal composition is, the best counter is always a mirror, which can be an issue in itself. But for me, like, you pretty much have to go triple tank, triple support, and if you're not doing that, like, a lot of people would see that it's just playing the game wrong. And a lot of this kind of boils down to just the skill required to execute it, because, like, there's a reason why GOATS was so prominent in the Overwatch World Cup. It doesn't take a lot of seasoned practice in order to run it effectively. But that being said, having a really good Brigitte can definitely open up possibilities, more so in that specific composition at that time. But that's going to change just due to the changes that we are seeing on the PTR to Brigitte's toolkit. But, even with a more healing intensive Brigitte, who's still providing all that armor, but maybe less stuns overall on a Reinhardt, you're bringing in more responsibilities to the Reinhardt player in that situation. But there's a lot to be said about the use of crowd control in Overwatch, which also kind of ties into another point that I will make. So in the game right now, I don't know offhand how many crowd control abilities are in the game. I would imagine it's a pretty significant number, just because it seems like a majority of the 29 heroes in the game have at least something that could be considered a crowd control. And this is a game that has no sort of, like, diminishing returns. And from a game design perspective, a lot of that revolves around the fact that this is an arcade shooter. So the time to kill in Overwatch is very quick. This isn't like World of Warcraft where there's, diminishing returns. You're not getting blown up instantaneously in, WoW arenas like you would in the game of Overwatch. DR isn't really an option when it comes to dealing with crowd control abilities, which is why I'm so thankful that, Team 4, the development team, is taking a look at maybe scaling back some of the CC abilities in the game, because, we'll use Brigitte as, like, a good example of this. A lot of times, like, you'll come in, regardless of what hero you're playing, but, let's say you are, unfortunately, running Tracer in this situation. You have kind of, like, this fear instilled in you because you're going up against Brigitte, and all Brigitte has to do is, she'll see you, she'll turn, she'll be holding up her shield, right? She'll come in, shield bash you, which will stun you, she'll whip shot you, and then flail at you once, and you're dead. Like, you can't really do anything in this situation. Like, even with one crowd control ability, regardless of if it's just one person attacking you, or if there is someone helping said person, you're able to be killed within, like, a period of, like, 1 second, maybe a second and a half, something under 2 seconds, which is just, for me, like, I feel like that is kind of far-fetched, like, to just have just a straight-out hard counter just because of one ability in the game, essentially. So, from a design perspective, what do you think Blizzard needs to do? Like, are we just going to keep introducing characters, kind of like Ashe, who just don't have any CC abilities? Or are you looking at maybe having a combination of not only, shying away from adding more CC in the game, to maybe just scaling down the overall effectiveness of maybe you have these stuns maybe not lasting as long, or maybe they only, like, maybe they have a chance at missing, or, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, what I see them doing in the future is they need to, as sad as it sounds, to keep CC. They need to keep CC out of the game. So the only way they can do that and still introduce characters that have CC is to make them slightly underpowered. So, like, you're seeing this with Baguette, and you're seeing this with Doomfist. They're getting nerfs. Not so they're trash tier, but they need to nerf them to where they're not god tiers. Like, because right now, Doomfist and Baguette are top tier players. Like, they're top tier characters. And you can't ever have characters who are top tier also have the CC abilities that they have. You can have characters who are mid-level and still has CCs and it not be a... I mean, for the longest time, and I brought him up before, but McCree was never a massive problem in Overwatch. He's always been kind of middle of the tier. When his right click, his fan to hammer.
Yeah, the fan to hammer roll combo.
Yeah, the fan to hammer was a little bit ridiculous, but that had nothing to do with CC. Like, it was just the fan to hammer. They nerfed that, but, like, his CC never made him top tier. Baguette's and Doomfist CC makes them top tier. Like, if you take away Doomfist's CC abilities, he's not top tier. Baguette will not be top tier when you take away her CC. Like, you need to keep the people with the still viable, but middle of the tier. It's kind of like what they have to do with Mercy. Like Mercy's res ability is a top tier ability. Like Mercy being able to res is one of the biggest advantages you can ever have in the game. But they counter that ability of her being like, her res ability is up here, but the rest of her abilities are lower than the other healers, or the healer output. So, like, they kind of counter that ability by doing that. So she's a middle of the tier support, which is perfect for her abilities not to get overpowered. And I think that's why they need to keep some of these characters like the Baguette, like the Doomfist, like Sombra. They should forever be middle tier. Now, for future heroes, I do not think they should introduce any form of CC, or very limited. Like Ashe. Ashe technically has a form of CC. But the only time she gets to use it is her ultimate. So when Bob rushes in, throws people up in the air, that's a form of CC. Her knockback is not a form of CC in my ability. That's an escape mechanic. So she has a CC, but it's not something that can be abused. It's her ultimate. Like, her ultimate is a form of CC. Like, that's different. If Baguette and Doomfist could only during the ultimate, they'd be a totally different character. But CC makes the game increasingly frustrating. I mean, everyone has moments, if you've ever played tank, where you're just stun locked. You get stunned by Baguette, then you get, hit by Doomfist, then you get hacked by Sombra, and then, it just kind of rolls down from there. And it's not fun. Like, it makes the game annoying and unpleasant to play. And I think they're kind of starting to realize that they kind of made a mistake. Like, Baguette, when she first came out, was popular. Doomfist, if you remember, was trash too. Nobody played Doomfist, like pros, anyone. And they kind of over tweaked him a little with his changes, kind of like what they did with Anna back in the day. And it's just, when you talk about especially like crowd control or toxicity, it boils down to two characters. And I hate to back the delete bring movement, but it's two characters that really kind of screw the game. And it's Baguette and Doomfist. Those two characters make the game not fun to play.
So
because of their abilities.
Okay, so let me add on to this real quick. So the easiest thing to do to lessen the impact of Brigitte is to lower the overall amount of armor that she provides at this point. That's all they have to do. Like, just tweak that number, and things will be more in line with where they need to be. I feel like with the Doomfist changes that we are seeing on the PTR, removing the loss of air control is gonna be like the sweet spot. But Brigitte, it's her armor that's the issue. At this point, I don't think it's gonna be her toolkit anymore, because like you're not gonna be able to, shield bash that Reinhardt. You're gonna be able to survive that stun combo essentially with her whip shot and her flail. So it's going to take a little bit more effort to actually be able to kill some of these heroes in the game, whereas the Squishy, you're not going to feel like, well, I just have no way to get out of this situation. So it's primarily just the overall armor provided. So, that'll remove some of the, the tankiness aspect of what Brigitte would provide for her team. So once they do that, I feel like the delete Brig movement will maybe not come to an absolute hard stop, but it will not continue that sort of momentum that it's currently having right now. But that being said, we gotta talk about, you talked about, Bop, ultimates in the game.
Oh, Bob.
So Bob is awesome. Like, I love Bob. But there's a lot to be said about Ultimates in Overwatch because, for me, like, when the game came out, Ultimates, were like, wow, like, this is a really powerful ability. It felt good, right? Now when you're using an Ultimate, it feels just kind of like an ability just with a longer cooldown. Like, Ultimates have kind of felt as if they've lost their luster, essentially. And it's kind of gotten to the point now where so much of the game, from a team perspective, kind of revolves around, okay, our team has this, and this to use. Based off of the information at hand that we know, maybe our opposition has this and this. So, like, if you have an ultimate advantage, chances are you're going to win that next fight. The amount of ult economy that you have dictates the pace of the game and the effectiveness of your chance to win that next fight or to win out the round or whatever. So right now, like, so much of the game just revolves around that sort of aspect of the game. Ultimates just do so much damage. Like, from a design perspective, Ed, like, where are you sitting with ultimates? Do you feel like they're still too significant? And how would you maybe scale that back in particular?
All right, so when we talk about ultimates, it's... And Siegel did point this out in his video. It's not DPS ultimates, it's not tank ultimates. Honestly, it boils down to support ultimates and how clutch and crucial they are. Like, everything kind of revolves around your Zenyatta, your Lucio ult, your Begat ult, your any of this ults. Like, if you need to have those to counter the other ults. I would not be opposed to an overall increase of ults by 30%, 40%. Because I think ultimates need to be special. And it's less of a, okay, we had a big team fight, I have my ultimate.
Right.
Like, I feel they need to generate it more and more and more. So, like, I kind of agree with Siegel in the fact that ultimates play too much of a role in the game. I think they need to increase the amount of time it takes to get an ultimate, so every single fight does not rely solely on who has more ultimates than the other team. But an underlying issue to that is who has the support ultimates. Because it's really who has the support ultimates to counter the other ultimates. Like, if you don't have your support ultimates up, you're going to lose to other ultimates no matter what. Yeah, Spider just said, just slow ult charge across the board. And I agree with that. Increase it by 30%. But I almost want to say slow support ultimates even more. Because, like he said, the Zenyatta ult, Lucio ult, Ana ult, Moira ult, Begat ult, they are so crucial to every team fight over any other ultimate that's out there that they should feel like they're bigger momentum swings than anything. So, I mean, especially Zenyatta and Lucio. Those are the two big ones that are like, we're gonna negate every ultimate that comes in. Just plain and simple. So, like, I want to say change the ultimate together, but I feel there's other changes that need to be made in the game before they address the ultimate issue. Now, everyone loves hitting their ultimate, but you're wrong. Like, you're just wrong. Like, yes, but the fact that you're hitting your ultimates all the time is bad for the game. Like, it's just not a good thing. It's not like hitting your ultimates shouldn't feel like every minute and a half ability unless you're AKM the 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Then but like it shouldn't feel like a long cooldown on your abilities. It should feel like something special. And right now ultimates do not feel like something special. Like I played a game earlier today where I was on, I believe it was Diva, and I hit my Diva ult, and then we were in a like a 30-second team fight, like a big team fight, and I had my ultimate again. That should not be the case. Like I should not be able to get my ultimate up that quick. You hear about these Reinhardt ultimates, say like, I got my Reinhardt ultimate up in 20 seconds. No, that should not be the case. Ultimate should be a special occasion. So yeah, it's just I feel they need to tweak it.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, what's very interesting about this is we talk about the fact that based off of CC, like you can consider the time to kill to be way too quick. But what you're describing is also the fact that within Overwatch across the board, like there's a lot to add to self-sustain, which in itself kind of lengthens the time that a team fight is going on, which also factors into how quick you are building to that next ultimate, even after you've just used it in the fight. So it's just like everything is like intertwined when it comes to the overall game design, from the abilities to ultimates, to just how quickly things live or die. So it's like this very like fine balancing act. So just like one change to any one of those would directly impact the other two things, right? So like I absolutely agree. Like ultimates right now, they don't feel special. No. There are too many cases in the game, whether it is in quick play, arcade, maybe not so much in like random heroes, because that's, you don't really get ultimates all that often, so we're not going to include that.
Anyone who complains about mystery heroes or arcade needs to go to hell. I'm sorry. That is strictly there for shits and giggles. I'm going to screw around. Right. Everyone else should screw around too. Like, mystery heroes, arcade, anything like that, if you're complaining about comp in mystery heroes, you're just a horrible human being.
I just the only change that I just want to see from random heroes is one hero limit. That's all I want to see. Like, cause you've been there with me in random heroes, and there's times where we run up against like double Zarya or double Brigida or double Mercy, and just based off their kits alone, it's just like we can't overcome this. So lessen that.
No,
but get it.
I played one earlier today. It might actually be on my stream in the VOD that has no sound, because I'm pretty sure you can't listen to Christmas music while playing. But I faced 4 Moiras. I'm like, I'm out.
I'm done.
Like I'm not winning this.
So getting back to the ultimates, there's just too many instances where you're building one fight, and that just that takes away from how they feel, basically, from like a game design perspective. But that being said, you were talking about like kind of trying to offset like DPS and tank ultimates, and then having support ultimates just be like on a different percentile. And even if Blizzard was to implement something like that, at the end of the day, you're still having team fights boiling down to who has more ultimates over the other team.
That's all team fights are now. It's like team fights are now based solely on ultimates. Like if you watch professional players or anybody plays streaming, it's like, okay, they're coming in. I believe they have Zarya ult. They have Zarya ult and Diva ult. to combine. Like it's not like, hey, watch out for this flank. Hey, watch out for this. Hey, they have these 3-4 ultimates. They're gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use your ultimates. Like that's the biggest problem with it.
Right. So, moving on, let's talk a little bit about the solo queue experience in the game, because a lot of these things are more noticeable as a solo queue player on the ladder, in competitive. So, Overwatch being a team game, Ed, if you are solo queuing in competitive, I know I probably solo queue a bit more than you have, but lately we've tried to do it whenever we're on. If you're in a position where you are a solo queue player, how much of an impact do you feel you have in that game, knowing that you're basically paired, with essentially 11 random people in the lobby?
Solo queue is shit. Like, sorry to swear, but solo queue is, mark it down so you can. But solo queue is horrible. Like, I get why people solo queue. It's because they don't have the Overwatch friends, which is fine because it's not a game that's forcing you to play with friends. And even if you play with friends, let's say you play with 2 other friends, then you're just playing with 9 other solo random people. Like, solo queue is atrocious. They need, and I held off for this because I want to back Blizzard so much on this. They need a queue system more than anything in the world. Like, they need solo queue, like a queue system, to save the game. Essentially, right now, like, if you don't implement a queue system, you're gonna start losing players at a rapid base because no one's gonna want to play comp at this rate. Because honestly, like, I go into comp. The reason I don't play into comp is because I'm the kind of person that is, hey, I'm the backfill guy. I'll play DPS, I'll play support, I'll play tank, which I'm fine with. The thing is I go into these games and 5 out of the 6 players aren't the same people. So you go in and you're like, hey, I'm playing with 4 DPS, an off tank, and no support. Like, so do I pick support? Do I pick tank? Like, you just don't know. They need comp picks to survive. Like, comp is gonna die if you don't have a solo queue system. I don't know a better way to put it. It's just not right now to solo queue. You can solo queue at higher levels because you're playing with more quality players. If you're at gold, diamond, platinum, or below, solo queue is not viable. It's just not. Because the thing is the majority of these players just want to play DPS. Like, I would rather wait, like, queue in as a support player and wait 5-6 minutes for a game, because it's less of a waste of time for me. Because I know the other players are going to be in it. Now, the tricky thing is if they do this, how do you work the queue system? Do you work the 2-2-2? Or how do you work with the, hey, we need to change, they're running goats. How do you counter goats? Goats with goats. Like, there's going to be a lot of, like, things that they change and deal with. But a queue system, I think, is definitely needed.
Yeah, Spider says that solo queue is a mindset game rather than just a skill game. But yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about, like, a role queue. A lot of people are wanting it, and like, part of me wants it, but another part of me is just like, that's kind of taken away the one of the core aspects of the game, which is hero swap. And so let's say you're like, okay, we're gonna implement the role queue. We're going to force people to have like a 2-2-2 composition. I feel like no matter whether or not they enforce a certain meta or, you know, limit you on heroes, basically, people are always going to find a way to min-max team compositions, and it's still going to end up being a mirror match more times than you would like to actually count. But, you know, you have to factor in Overwatch as a game is all about hero swaps. Yes, a lot of times it might be, you know, mirror compositions, which kind of sucks. But there's a lot of people worried, like, if they put this in place, like, well, what happens if you want to be a support player and you need to flex to, you know, another hero that could, you know, maybe have more movement to, you know, try to stall out a point? Like, what if you want to go Wrecking Ball or Tracer, but you can't? Like, you're kind of taking away part of the reason the game was designed from that perspective. But, you know, as of right now, you know, for the most part, like, I've been a solo queue player since the game came out. You know, maybe in more recent seasons, you know, we've tried a duo, or we run, like, a 6-stack with some of the podcasters in the Overwatch community. And from a game perspective, in terms of overall enjoyment, because it is a team game, like, the difference between the two is night and day, you know? Solo queue is excruciating. Like, it is painstaking to the point where you either don't want to play, or if you do play, you only want to play a couple of matches because you're in a position where, you know, a game or two might be enough to make you just want to go do something else. And for those people that are on the higher end, I feel like no matter what, like, the issues within the game itself is going to affect every, like, skill tier in the game. But it's more noticeable at the higher end for sure. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, Seagull was so vocal in this particular video. So for me, basically, as a solo queue player, like, I'll be honest, like, in regards to competitive, since maybe, like, I'll have to check my profile, but I would say in at least 75% of the seasons, I only do placements. And maybe outside of that, max play, like, 5 or 6 games. Sometimes not even that. Some seasons I've just skipped altogether, where I've only, like, done a placement or two, and I never actually finished them. Like, even this season that we're currently in, I have not done any placements on any account, and a lot of that just boils down to that solo queue experience, and that feeling of helplessness, knowing that as one player, there's only so much you can do. Like, yes, you can act as a shot caller for your team. That doesn't mean that people are going to listen or be open to discussion or be willing to work with you, regardless of it being a team game or not. So, you know, we've seen Blizzard implement, like, the LOG tool, which, I'll be honest, like, I honestly haven't utilized that with comp, like, at all. And I feel like, yes, you would be able to find some like-minded players, but it's kind of hard to gauge whether or not grouping with that is better, primarily because, like, I don't think grouping with people necessarily means that you're going to have consistency in the best way. Like, you're still going to have people that you're going to be grouping with that maybe you feel like aren't pulling their weight, or maybe their playstyle doesn't mesh well with you. Like, let's say you're like a Reinhardt player, and you play aggro, and you're grouped up with someone that's an off-tank player, and they play Zarya, and, you know, they mismanage bubbles, and they're not getting good usage out of that. You know, it's not allowing you to soak the damage, or, you know, to give them energy, basically, and you're basically, like, you're offsetting the potential of impact that you can have with that tank line, because they don't have that energy built up. So, like, do I feel like a role queue is a distinct possibility? I feel like it can be. And with this video and the discussions that are going on, like, this is the point within Overwatch right now where the community has been the most vocal. And I feel like if the community kind of, like, takes a step back and, like, maybe, like, takes their foot off the gas pedal, like, it's going to slow things down in the sense of maybe Blizzard won't feel as pressured. Like, now's the time to be vocal, like, when there's all this discussion going on. Like, this is our best chance to tweak the game to something that we feel like would make the game as a whole a better experience just across the board for players. And, at the end of the day, like, even in a world where, there's perfect balance, like, from, like, a design perspective, character abilities, things like that, that doesn't necessarily also mean that the game's gonna be fun. Like, it's kind of like a bleak way to kind of look at it, but I don't feel like in a perfect world, even if things are balanced completely, like, there still could be underlying issues. So for me, like, in the game's current iteration, like, I don't see myself as someone that every season is going to go anything beyond just doing placement matches. And, it is discouraging because I do love playing Overwatch. But it's at the point now where when it comes to being a spectator, with, everything going on with contenders, with Overwatch League, I watch far more competitive Overwatch and streams. Now, granted, I don't do that anywhere near as much as watching the tournaments and stuff. But even with, like, watching streamers, like, I watch Twitch streams more than I actually play the game. And I don't know if, you're in the same boat as I am, but, like, the scale is definitely weighing heavily on one side more so than the others, where me actually playing a game might only be, some weeks an hour,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
It makes sense. I think the majority of players a majority of people who watch Overwatch League and whatnot on Twitch, there's essentially like three categories of Overwatch players. You have the Overwatch players who don't watch Overwatch League or Twitch. You have the Overwatch players who play comp and quick play and enjoy watching Overwatch League on Twitch and streams. And then you have the players who prefer the Overwatch League players on Twitch over actually playing the game. Like, you have those three, and you determine what one of those three you're going to fit into. Now, one thing that popped up when we talked about queues is one thing queues could do is you select two roles. And it's not like, and they would need to break it down. Have flex tank, support, like hit range, hit scan, non-hit scan, support. Like, you would have those. You'd have to pick two of those abilities, and that's the only things you could swap to. Like, between those two, that could help with the swapping if you do a queue system.
Right.
You do. But, like, going back to, like, the playing Overwatches, I feel the Overwatch League and all the esports around Overwatch League is actually bigger than the game of Overwatch itself.
Yeah.
I mean, now I don't think more people watch Overwatch League than play Overwatch. That'd be ridiculous to think. But, like, the amount of serious people who play Overwatch is lower than who watch Overwatch League, because esports is esports. Esports is it's whole different. Like, watch fantasy. I watch football. I watch basketball. I watch baseball and all that stuff. I don't play any of those games, but I enjoy watching it. The same can be said for esports. So in the Overwatch League, people love watching the Overwatch League. I love watching the Overwatch League on my TV. And stuff like that. Doesn't mean I'm going to be playing Overwatch while I watch the Overwatch League. With the Overwatch League now being Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
Well, Thursday through Sunday.
Thursday through Sundays. But and then we record Wednesday, so I'm including that. That doesn't leave a whole lot of time to actually play, because I'd rather watch the Overwatch League than play Overwatch. Like, it's a fine line that they're running, and I think they're happy with either or. Because if people are playing the Overwatch, then they're happy. Whereas, like, they're happy with people just watching the Overwatch League. Like, I feel they're happy with. So, I don't know where they sit, because we don't know internal numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't, and we will never know the internal numbers that they have. But it's just, I feel they want to cater the game to more casual, and not as much like in regards to Overwatch League, or sorry, not to more of the comp scene, but they want to cater to more hard by just having to watch the Overwatch League. And I feel they have them distinct between the two. Like, hey, we have the people who play the game who we're going to cater to them more for the low end aspect of the game, as the more high end competitive players, we're going to gear the Overwatch League more towards them. So I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense the way I think of it.
So at the end of the day, the community, like, as I mentioned, like, this is the time to give direct feedback, essentially, because now more so than ever, like, the developer team is listening, and you can see that just based off of the latest changes that hit the PTR that we discussed earlier, with the changes to some of the CC in the game. So where exactly this is going to lead into a game design perspective, like, we're gonna have to wait and see. We'll see if they keep shying away from crowd control abilities, and we'll see if it goes beyond that. But for now, like, I feel like that was a really healthy discussion, and I know we are running long, so let's close out the show so we can get the heck out of here, because we are recording basically two hours later, or an hour later than we normally do. Actually, it was 2 hours. My times are all mixed up. But anyways, if you guys want to help us out, the best way to do that is to leave us a positive review over on iTunes. We're always looking for insight on how we can make for a better listening experience for you guys. We do have Overwatch Recall, that is our podcast directory specifically for Overwatch content. So, that includes, like, Overwatch, Overwatch League, Path to Pro podcasts. Yes, we shine a light on the Tier 2 scene, unlike the social media. We do episodic listings of all the podcast episodes every Sunday night, so you can find Overwatch Recall on Twitter at OW Recall. And if you follow that handle, like, you'll see me retweeting a lot of podcast posts, and then you can see me link the weekly recalls there. And the podcast form of that has been, my free time has been severed quite a bit, so I haven't really done a podcast for that one specifically here, like, within the last month, but I'm hoping to get it back on track here very soon. But that being said, Ed, we have a number of ways that our listeners and our community can get a hold of us, so why don't you let them know where they can find us?
All right, well,
My Discord is cutting out a bit.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Hold on.
I just heard at Gmail.
Okay. Well, all right. I'll start over. You can reach us on email at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter at @HNDOverwatch. We do have a website, and that is at owlnshow.com. So come over there. That's where we post some of the wonderful videos that Spider makes. We are streaming live on Twitch right now, twitch.tv/OWLN show. We are a Twitch affiliate, so you can support the show by subscribing to our Twitch channel and unlock our network emoticons. So thanks again to everyone who's watching our shows live and interacting with the chat. If you'd like to catch us live, we broadcast 2 nights a week. So Overwatch League Network, which I confuse with the Overwatch League every week, is live Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. And then this show, Heroes Never Die, is usually on at 5 p.m. Pacific. And then we do will be held on Thursdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, so just a quick note, it is a holiday week. I know I myself am not planning on streaming tomorrow on Thanksgiving, and I believe Spider said that he does not plan on streaming on Friday. So I'm hoping to get back on track with my particular stream next Thursday. But, you know, there might be a slight chance, maybe I'll pick it up on Saturday night, this week, unless, you know, I'm watching Contenders or trying to get caught up on that front.
I mean, yeah, this whole next month is going to be wonky for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I'll be honest, like, in 2 weeks I go to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on in the month, days, you know, so it's that time of year where we start hitting holidays, we start hitting all that wonderful fun stuff where things can come up. So things are going to kind of be on the fly. So you just have to follow the Twitter, and you know, we'll keep people up to date. But you can also find that stuff on discord.me/OWLN show, and then YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel, and it's youtube.com/Overwatch League Network, and that's when Spider will get his Ash videos up. That's when Spider will get his Bob videos
yeah,
up,
exactly.
featuring Ash.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we'll have those up there. You can follow me personally at Ednar Overwatch. I'm probably going to stream a bit more than normal this month because I like streaming Overwatch while I listen to Christmas music and I sing. And I listen to the Buble, and it's just a fun time. So my Twitch is at EdnarOW. I will probably tweet out when I go live on that. But Totem, where can they find you?
Well, I am over on Twitter at TotallyDrunkCTR. My Twitch is a barren wasteland, so if I am live on Twitch, it will be on our podcast channel here at twitch.tv/OWLN show. But with that being said, guys, I hope everyone has safe travels and has a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know there is definitely a lot to be thankful for. You know, yes, in Overwatch, despite, you know, maybe some glaring issues that a lot of the community feels, but, you know, within the podcast community. And I do want to thank Malkari for having me on The Point, which is a Overwatch talk show that debuted here this past Sunday. Even, you know, in that, like, 7-minute window where I got to act as the main host when she accidentally shut off her computer. So I have that posted on our website. You can check out the Twitch VODs there. But with that being said, again, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And if you're listening to the audio, you know, we appreciate that as well. If you're downloading on iTunes or whatever podcatcher. But again, this has been Heroes Never Die, episode number 136. I am your host, Emily Drunk, joined, as always, by my co-host, Edinar. Enjoy your holiday, and we will see you guys back on Monday for our next episode of Overwatch League Network. Guys, have a good night.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Heroes Never Die. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HND Overwatch and join us on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show.